He was a sixth-round pick of the Cubs in 1984 and played 8 teams in his major league career. 269 wins. Think about that, 269 wins. If my math is right, Andre is the 4th Hall of Famer we've had speak here just since 2016. Think about that for a second, that's pretty cool. 269 right now is Hall of Fame worthy, right? Right? We're talking about guys right now that barely have 220 that they're going to put in. 269 wins. I'm trying, Jamie. I'm trying to start the campaign. 20 wins in Seattle in 2001. 2003 American League All-Star. And you know he won a World Series right down the road in 2008. It is our pleasure to welcome to the Hot Stovers, Mr. Jamie Moyer.
Thank you, Steve, and hello, and thank you for having me here tonight and being a part of this. You know, as Steve alluded, I'm from the area. I grew up an hour from here in Souderton. And your community is a little bit bigger than the Souderton community, but your community reminds me a lot of the community that I grew up in. And I just want to congratulate you, first of all. Charles, I mean, awesome. You know, you're the originator of this, or the original who's been here. I think this is very, very special. And I'd love to acknowledge him. So, Charles, thank you. And the younger generation that's here, you know, you should feel pretty honored to have somebody like Charles who has started this or been involved with the inception of this program, but also the program that's existing right now. To have this program go for 60 years, I think is pretty phenomenal, especially with everything that's been going on in our last couple of years in our society. So I commend all you people for what you're doing, getting this thing together tonight. Everybody that's been a part of this and has kept it going, and then most importantly, everybody who's here tonight who's supporting the Hot Stovers. I mean, without the community support, they wouldn't be here. So again, this is how I was raised, and I think it's pretty special. So I'm just sharing the feeling that I'm getting, because I don't live out here anymore. I live on the West Coast. I don't see this. And I almost fell off my chair when there was winners or acknowledgement for American Legion baseball players. I don't know where they play American Legion baseball anymore in the United States other than the state of Pennsylvania. It's not on the West Coast. I don't see it anywhere. So that's really cool too, because that's, again, a part of what I've grown up with. So I think that's really cool. So I would just like for you all to give yourselves a hand. And it is an honor to be here tonight. I don't have a whole lot of history with Ricky.
No.
I really don't. We were both pitchers. I have respect for Ricky because he was across the field doing what I did, but doing it a little differently. He was a reliever. He played different roles as a reliever, closer, setup guy, whatever he needed, or whatever they needed, and he did it well. So I commend you, Ricky, for the lengthy career you had.
Half a year.
And look, as Andre was talking, 4 years. He's right. When you get into the game, they say, well, the average career is 3 to 4 years, and so to have played 12 years, to have played 21 years, even 25. I feel very honored and appreciated that opportunity. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to get a lot of funny jokes, so that probably should have been your closer, and I should have been your middle guy or setup guy. But I'm more about experience and experiences that I have, and I love to share those. And it's already been alluded that I did play with the Cubs. Like I said, I grew up in Souderton, graduated from Souderton High School, moved on to St. Joseph's University, which we all know is down in Philadelphia. As Steve shared, I was drafted in the 6th round by the Cubs in 1984. But the guy who's the scout who followed me was from New York. But the first place he saw me play was in the York Labor Day tournament in York, Pennsylvania. So it's really, these guys that are scouts, they really do beat the bushes. They go to some of these, now maybe not so much now as they did then, but that's where he first saw me play. He then followed me, obviously, at St. Joe. I eventually at one point played for the Allentown Wings, which is a collegiate summer league, or a part of the ACBL, which was, played with Mike Trout's dad, Jeff Trout, who was a great player, Billy Sassaman. I don't know if anybody remembers the name of Billy Sassaman, who went to Kutztown State. He was a teammate. It's all, again, it's this hometown. For me tonight, it's this hometown vibe and feeling. But I had these great opportunities and felt like I was able to take advantage of them. As I said, I went to St. Joe's, and again in high school I had a really good career. I was a left-handed pitcher, played some first base, played some outfield. But as maybe some of you youngsters have already heard or seen, well, you can't do this, you don't throw hard enough, you don't run fast enough. You're always told what you can't do. And basically, that's what I was told in high school. And I was told I was too small. And had the opportunity to go to college, play Division I baseball at St. Joe, played there 3 years, had 3 pretty decent years. I started mid-game weeks as a freshman. Sophomore, I was a weekend guy. Sophomore and junior year was a weekend guy. And ended up having a pretty good career, and like I said, was drafted by the Cubs. Then obviously went through in the Cubs organization, and upon being drafted, I flew out to Phoenix, Arizona. I had never been west of the Mississippi in my life, and for a little mini spring training, and was there with all the new draftees plus all the leftovers that were hanging around from spring training. And we formed 2 teams. One went to Wytheville, Virginia. I was on the team that went to Geneva, New York. But again, you're too small. We're going to give you a chance, but I was told all the things that I couldn't do. And it's pretty interesting because I was a pitcher. I was a starting pitcher. I got the opportunity to pitch on a 5-day basis. And for me, it was about preparation, and it was about learning on the fly and being prepared to work. And when they said work, you showed up early and you stayed late, and you did more than what you needed to do or what was expected of you. And things really kind of worked out quite quickly for me. And within 2 years, in 1986, I got called up to the Chicago Cubs, where I eventually met one of my teammates, Andre Dawson, which was pretty phenomenal. My time in Chicago was so-so. Is that my time to be done? No. I didn't know if you had to take Andre back to the airport. Oh, he's driving. Oh, he's driving. Just checking. That was good timing, though. That's good. I like that. But yeah, again, like I said, for me, it's more about experiences and some of the people that I've played with and the opportunities that I've had in places where I've been able to play. And I've been able to play all over the world. But I've been to banquets, and you bump into people. You're in a bar, you're in a restaurant, wherever it might be, and you start talking baseball. And one of the questions I get asked a great deal during my career and post-career, it's like, who was your favorite player to play with or favorite teammate? And I say, I don't have one, I have 3. And people kind of look, well, why? And I said, well, let me explain. And one of them is this gentleman right here. And again, I was a 23-year-old, had played about 2 years of minor league baseball. I was greener than green. And I go to Chicago, and I had never been to Chicago. I had never been to Wrigley Field. I was in awe. And actually, my first start was against the Phillies. And it was against my boyhood idol, Steve Carlton, who you happened to get your first hit off of. And I wouldn't say I pitched that great that day, but I pitched well enough to win. And my first major league win was against Steve Carlton, which was pretty cool. That was, to me, that was my career could have ended that day as far as I was concerned. But as I, was a teammate and played, I started to watch and started to take notice, and you kind of see who kind of knows what they're doing and who doesn't know what they're doing and who wants to be there and who doesn't want to be there, right? And I think Andre, you can probably remember some guys that maybe wanted to be there, didn't want to be there, or didn't really care, either way. But my locker was at the far end of the clubhouse, and I'm not sure where Andre's was. I don't recall where Andre's was, but at the far end of the clubhouse, we had this clubhouse manager, his name was Yosh Kawano. It's this little Japanese guy that wore this like Gilligan's Island hat, right, all the time. And sometimes he had a cigar in his mouth, but it wasn't, I don't know that he ever smoked it. It was never lit. But and he wore khaki pants with a white t-shirt. And he was the busy man. He was running around. He had some associates underneath him that worked as well. He was our clubhouse manager. And he was the Frank Koppenbarger of the Chicago Cubs. Frank Koppenbarger is the clubhouse guy with the Phillies when I played there. Anyhow, there was this box at the end of the clubhouse and there were mail slots on the wall, and there was this room, an equipment room. And one day after a game, Andre had come walking by, and he had like a brown grocery bag, and it was under his arm. And who am I to ask him what's in the bag, right? And so I didn't say anything, but I took notice of it, right? And where's he going with that brown grocery bag? And I know Andre lived downtown at the time in one of the towers downtown, I believe. And he goes out the door, and I don't know, I think it was the next day or possibly the day after, I was at the ballpark, and he came walking in, and he had that brown grocery bag. I'm like, what's he walking in with a brown grocery bag? And what he did is he took his fan mail home, and he autographed it with that lovely autograph that you all saw tonight. That got an autograph from him, probably one of the nicest autographs in the game of baseball, right? And legible. And he opened the bag, and he dumped it in the brown cardboard box that was our outgoing mailbox. And, being a young player, I'm like, well, he's answering his mail. Well, as I started to play the game, I realized a lot of guys didn't answer their mail. And it taught me a lesson. Again, his humility, he was a great player in the field, but it's some of the little things that he did off the field. It's how he treated me. It's how he acknowledged me. And he wasn't the only guy that I got that from. I got that from a lot of players, but he was one of the first to show me that, to kind of lead me down that path and lead me down, that direction. Because you hear a lot of people that say, well, who helped you shape your career? And it's a lot of people. It's my dad, it's my mom, it's my sister, it's my family, it's my upbringing, blah, 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 all that stuff, how you were raised. But then in the game, you still kind of need that nurturing. And sometimes it's verbal, and sometimes it's nonverbal. And in this situation, it wasn't, and he has no idea that I'm telling this story. But I have told this story. If I've told this story once in my life, I'll bet I've told it 200 times. Because it's something that stuck with me. Because after I saw him do that, I made it a point when I got mail in the clubhouse that I answered my fan mail. Because I did see teammates actually take their mail and throw it in the trash. And I'm thinking, there's a little kid, there's somebody paid money for that card, right? And it's an experience, you know, like you all brought your cards and pictures tonight. That's an experience that you guys had. Well, this was an experience people are getting through the mail, right? And it just, it taught me a huge lesson, so thank you. And I did it my whole career. And you know, I just think it's, again, one of the responsibilities that we have as an athlete, and I'm sure you would agree with that. The other cool thing was, and I'm sure anybody that's done any internet research or just knows on some of Andre's history, you know, to have the opportunity to play with a player who needed to get off and wanted to get off AstroTurf so bad that he would sign with anybody and basically ended up signing with the Cubs, but couldn't come to an agreement in a financial denomination. So he said, okay, how about I just sign the contract and you put the number in? Where have you heard that before? I don't think you heard it before, and I don't think you've heard it since, in any sport. I think that's pretty cool. And what does he do? He doesn't gripe about it, he doesn't complain about it, but he actually went out on the field and did something about it. He let his actions speak for him rather than his words. So again, as a young player, wow, you know, some of these things really stand out, you know. So again, one of my personal favorite players, and he doesn't know it until tonight. You know, and again, it's not always what you see on the field. Obviously, yeah, players are liked because of some things that they do or what their careers stand for in the field. But you know, again, I have my two other favorites are, one is Cal Ripken, and the other one is Nolan Ryan. And as much as Nolan Ryan was a bastard on the pitching mound, he was a great teammate and he was a great human being. But on the mound, it didn't matter who was at the plate. If he needed to knock you down, he was knocking you down. There were no questions asked. But that's how he was raised in the game. That's how he was taught how to play the game. And it was accepted in the game at that point in time. It's no longer accepted. But again, Nolan would, you know, I witnessed one of his no-hitters. I witnessed his 300th win on the third try. I witnessed his 5,000th strikeout. You know, to have the opportunity to play is pretty cool, but to be a witness of magical things that happen in a game, right? A guy that signs a blank contract and has an MVP season. A guy that, you know, throws no-hitters, 7 actually in his career, I believe it was, 5,000 strikeouts, which we'll never see again, and 300 wins, which we'll never see again. And as I was telling somebody earlier tonight, and then after the game, go have a beer and a hamburger with the guy at TGI Friday. I mean, and it was like, no big deal. I'm just doing my job, right? So again, and to me, it's great athletes showing their human side, right? Because we're all human beings. And thirdly, it would be Cal Ripken. You know, I was able to play with Cal, played against him for many years, played with him when he broke Lou Gehrig Street. But to again witness what he had to go through on a daily basis as he was the culmination to that streak, the excitement around the country in the game of baseball, it was pretty special. But in the clubhouse, he's fooling around with guys, and wrestling with guys, and punching guys in the ribs, and nobody wanted to touch him. Nobody wanted to get near him. He'd go over to guys and grab on them and throw them on the ground, and they'd just lay there like a dummy because they didn't want to be the guy that hurt him, right? So it was really interesting, but he was a lot of fun, and you know, we'd go on the road, and he didn't stay in our hotel, but you know, like when we would go to Seattle, he'd stay out. I'll let the cat out of the bag. He'd stay out by Snoqualmie Falls, and they have a great brunch out there. And he'd say, hey, anybody that wants to come out tomorrow morning, I'm buying brunch. And he would send 2 vans to the hotel in town, and guys who wanted to go would get in a van and go out and have brunch with them. You know, but I mean, it just, you know, we'd go from coast to coast on a plane. He had all the crabs you could eat from coast to coast. He had them put on the plane, and we ate crabs from coast to coast. But when it came to playing baseball, he was all about playing baseball. And again, to me, it's the human part, right? Because you do play and you do have the experience to play, but at some point you realize too your career's going to be over, right? And you go up that ladder. At some point you got to come back down that ladder. And the people that you kicked and pushed out of the way and shoved on your way up, you're going to pass them on the way back down. So, some of these life experiences that I gained, and these are just a few that I've gained throughout the course of my career, have really stood out. And like I said, it's not always what happens on the field, but it's how you're touched by those off the field. And just how they acknowledge you. Good day, bad day. I've seen, like I said, I witnessed Nolan Ryan throw a no-hitter. Put it this way, I got traded. Oh, by the way, I was one of the guys when you guys got Mitch. I went the other way. I was in that trade that sent Mitch to you. So you're welcome. And I know what you're talking about because when I got traded to Texas and Mitch was in that deal, I lived about 5 houses down the street from Mitch at the time. So I get to see that too. But I like Mitch. He's a different cat, but I like Mitch. But where was I going with this? The Nolan Ryan thing. That's what happens. I'm almost 60. I don't have to go to the bathroom yet, so that's good. Where am I going with this? So Nolan Ryan, rolling. Do what?
Nolan Ryan at his worst. You had talked about his best, now you're going to say you knew about his worst.
His worst. Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So back when I got traded to Texas, Nolan had signed as a free agent there, and Roger Clemens was in Boston, and it just so happened they pitched against each other in Texas. I don't remember the result. I think Nolan won that game. And then 5 days later, it was the Battle of the Gunslingers, because they're both Texans, in Boston. So we go to Boston, and Nolan's pitching, and golly, I don't know that he got out of the second inning. And I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar how far the dugout is from the mound and the field. It's an older ballpark, and the configuration is quite different. And Nolan, with his little walk that he always had, that swagger that he had, walked with his head down, and as he got to the top step of the dugout, somebody from behind the dugout, a fan, threw a beer over the top of the dugout and literally hit him right in the top of the head, and it went right down his jersey. Nolan never lifted his head. He walked right down in the dugout, and there were 24 guys that were wanting to climb up over that roof and catch whoever it was who had taken off. It was really, and Nolan never batted an eye at it. So nothing was ever said, nothing was done, they didn't catch the person. Found out several years later, as Nolan was then an executive for the Rangers, happened to be in Boston, and the person that did it went up to him and apologized to him. So it was like, and you know what, but I mean, again, you see how people act. I mean, you can probably think of some athletes that would have gone absolutely crazy, right, if that would have happened, right? So again, the lessons that you learn in this game, and their life lessons are, to me, have been really important. But if I can share a lesson for you youthful males and females who are aspiring to continue to play high school sports or to play college sports, please work with your instincts and try not to allow others to tell you or deter you from your success, because there's a ton of distraction in our world today. And sometimes the biggest detractor or distraction can be your own mind. So stay positive, stay focused, but as I shared with in the beginning of speaking here tonight, that my whole career, I was told what I could not do. And it's funny because Steve joked about it, I hear about it all the time. Everything with me, when it comes to baseball, the word old is included, right? And it's okay, I don't mind, I'm used to it. I earned that, I worked hard for that. But the cool thing about it is that I never gave up. And I wouldn't allow somebody to take the uniform off of me. Yeah, my career did end, but it ended when I was 49. It didn't end when I was 19 or 29 or 30. It was my choice. It was my choice to end my career. And, you know, I've been very fortunate. A lot of players don't get that choice. But I didn't allow people to deter me from not wanting to play the game of baseball. It's a game that I loved. I dreamt about playing it. You know, we've all talked about it in some fashion tonight. You know, it's something that's in us, and you can be successful at anything you want to do if you believe in yourself. So I challenge all of you, or I give you all that challenge, is to challenge yourself. Because you are obviously gifted in probably two ways, and I don't know any of you, but in two ways, athletically and educationally. So take both of those skills that you have and utilize them. Make the best of those opportunities. Because when you look back in 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years, you're gonna say, boy, I wish I would have done this, or I could have done this. If I had it all over to do again, I would do that. I don't think this gentleman or this gentleman would regret any bit of their career, and I don't either. It wasn't easy, it was hard, but if somebody said, would you do it again? I would do it exactly the same way. So, and I know, you know, I'll end with that part of it with that, you know, probably, you know, the other one question I get is, you know, what was your favorite team that you played on? Well, they were all fun in a lot of ways, some not as fun. But my favorite team obviously was the Phillies, because as we all were players, what do you think about? You want to play in a World Series. If you could give up 10 years of your career to play in a World Series, I'm sure you would do it. You'd say, where do I sign up? If you could give up, you know, 5 or 10 years of your career.
Give up the whole thing.
Yeah, because, I mean, and you know, you kids out there, and even adults, you know, think back to when you were a kid, you know, and when you were playing sports, you know, and what did you imagine? Playing in a Super Bowl, playing in a World Series, playing in the NHL, Stanley Cup, you know, whatever it was. And that's the ultimate, that's the pinnacle, right? And in 08, little did I know, I was gonna be on a team where that happened. But for me, it started in 2007. You know, we fell short, and we had a pretty good year, and we went out to Colorado and thought we were pretty good, and got to Colorado, and Colorado was running on all cylinders, and you know, they cut through us like butter. So our season was shortened our postseason was shortened really quick. And I don't know that I've ever been in a clubhouse from losing a baseball game as somber as that clubhouse. After losing a baseball game. I've been in clubhouses where somebody has passed away, and like the day Harry Callis passed away. Not a fun day, and I had to pitch that day. Not a fun day. I couldn't keep it together warming up in the bullpen. It just, because we got the news right before the game started. So it was a pretty tough day, but we knew that wasn't feeling well. Anyhow, we get to that, we get beat in Colorado, and in 2008, in spring training, there was just a completely different feel in the clubhouse in spring training. It was very, very workmanlike. And I don't know that up until that point in my career, I don't know that I ever saw a group of people that focused. And because I think they were the players who remained on that team from '07 had been scarred so bad, and it ate at them all winter long, you could tell. And just, everybody kind of had an edge. And like you said, nobody talked about it. Charlie didn't talk about it. Pat Gillick didn't talk about it. It was just kind of went unspoken. And we got into our season and we started playing well, and it just, continued to move forward and forward. And as you know, we got into the playoffs, and I'm not going to say we walked through the playoffs, but we got through the playoffs. We played Milwaukee, the Dodgers, some big hits. Shane had some big hits. Matt Stairs had a big hit. Get to the World Series, Jeff Jenkins, and it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting to be able to realize that here I'm finally here, and this is what it feels like, and it's really hard to describe it. And if you all recall, when we won the first game at Tampa, lost the second game, came home, and it was nothing but rain and cold, and that's the typical Philadelphia fall weather, right? I grew up here, you all grew up here, so this is kind of what, not that I expected it, but it's what we had to deal with. And I don't think the weather really played a factor with my teammates or in their psyche. So I think that's what was great. Nothing was going to get in our way. Did we know we were going to win a World Series? No. Did we talk about? Yeah, we all wanted to get to the World Series and win it, but it wasn't like we're going to win this thing in 6 games or 4 games. We're going to sweep them. We just played, and like you said, in the end, it turned out pretty good for us. We had a few delays. We had a couple stoppages. We had to move a game from one night to another. But it's magical. And when you have teammates, and these guys up here know, when they're picking each other up, playing for each other, that's what it's about. It's a team. It's a camaraderie. It's a brotherhood. And when you have that, whether you have it for a day, a week, a month, for a whole year, during the playoffs, whatever it might be, it's pretty special. And it's a feeling that you wish you could bottle it, you wish you could savor it, you wish you could share it, but it's hard. It's hard. But when you feel it, you feel it, and and I know, like I said, I know Andre's been there. We've all been there, right? And it's pretty special. So, we end up winning. It's an exciting evening for us. It's a huge celebration. And then, we have a parade, which, how many people were at the parade? Cool, very cool. Exciting times. What they say, there were 2 million people, I believe, downtown. Public transportation ceased. Nothing was moving. It was gridlock. But the cool thing is, I had shared this story actually with the media tonight beforehand. Everybody, probably in this room, but everybody who's a fan, has a story about where they were when we clinched, right? I was sleeping, I was working, we were with friends, we were on the back deck, and that's the cool, to me, that's the connection for me to you as a player. That's how we can share our experiences, right? You got to see us play, but the cool thing is, you can relate to us, and we can relate to you, and to me, that's because, yeah, you can talk about it, and it's great to talk about, but sharing that, it's just that special feeling, and there's nothing better than winning. You know, as Andres was talking about earlier, yeah, Philly's a tough town to play in. But if you are you're on the home team and you win, it's pretty special. It really is pretty special. Because I saw a little bit of the losing side in 2006 when I was here, and we fell short of the playoffs. And I think I heard a few words that I had never even heard of. And I don't know, I thought somebody was going to fire Charlie from the stands, you know, as we got into September and we fell short. But it's funny how things kind of turned, right? And in a year and a half, and we win a World Series, and Charlie's now walking on water, right? And rightfully so. I mean, he was a great manager. He and Lou Piniella are my two most favorite managers. Lou Piniella had unbelievable passion. I felt like I had another teammate on my team that wanted to win. That's all he cared about, was winning. And he had a high expectation for his players. And then Charlie, you know, Charlie is nothing but baseball, 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 and baseball. Charlie goes home at night when we're playing in Philly, and he turns on a satellite dish and he watches all the West Coast games until they're over every night. And, you know, I mean, you guys have heard Charlie talk. You've heard him talk on interviews, and, you know, he'd come to the ballpark the next day and, you know, he'd call me, "Hey, Mo, what's up, Mo?" He'd come walking through, because he would go to the training room every day and check on his players and who can play and all that kind of stuff. He'd say, "What do you think today, Mo?" You know, and some days I had some conversation for him, other days I didn't. But, you know what? He always had the ability to talk about the game, whether it was hitting, whether it was pitching. He had an opinion, and that's what makes him so special. And that's why his players wanted to play for him, and his coaches wanted to coach for him. He was that kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that you want as a leader. You know, his meetings weren't the most eloquent, kind of like me talking up here tonight. Probably not the most eloquent, but he got his point across. It may take him a little longer to get it across, but he got his point across. And he's just one of those guys you really, really wanted to play for. So, you know, it was exciting times. Unfortunately, in '09, we got stymied by the Yankees in the World Series. But I believe you guys saw a lot of really good baseball for a couple-year span. And, you know, for me, it was an honor to be on those teams and trying to contribute and make a contribution to make those teams better. So, you know, and to me, that's what it's about. You know, if everybody can kind of pull their weight on a team, it makes it a special team. So, again, like I said, we fell a little short in 2009, and we started to get old, and we started to get broken, and we got hurt, and we since then have fallen apart, and, you know, here we are, right? And, you know, then we get through some management changes and things like that, and, you know, you kind of reboot. But I look at baseball as a very cyclical game. Teams go, you know, they have their ebbs and flows. Sometimes those flows, I guess, go a little bit longer. I mean, look at the Cubs. For how many years did they go with, you know, not winning? And we were a part of a lot of those teams. We were very talented on the field, but we just couldn't put it together, right? And then a couple years ago, boom, they won a World Series, right? You don't know. And then, you know, how long can you sustain it, right? You keep your free agents, you stay healthy, and that's what every team has to deal with, and that's what's so difficult, and not just in baseball, it's in basically every sport that we watch on TV, right? Every team sport. So, I don't know, that's my thing, was my excitement. You know, being able to play till I was 49 was a challenge, but it was fun. And, you know, I feel very fortunate to have had that opportunity. But feel very fortunate to have been able to share some special years of baseball, Philadelphia Phillies baseball, with this community. So thank you for having me, and good luck to all of our high school athletes. Congratulations, and good luck with all of your endeavors in the future. Thank you very much.